Hello and welcome to Sturgeon classes. After discussing about the various basic things, the basic and fundamentals of economy, now let's move on to some of the advanced and applied topics of economy. So from the last two videos, we were discussing the very beginning, the very foundation of the economics. Now we will begin with our Indian economy section. That this in this third video we will deal with mainly your sustainable development goals, your inclusive growth and inflation. All these three topics are mentioned as it is in your syllabus. If you will take and look into your UPSC syllabus, you will find sustainable development goals, you will find the term inclusive growth, as well as you will find this term that is inflation in it. So let's begin our discussion on these three advanced topics of economics. Beginning with sustainable development goals. To begin with, what do we understand? Let's understand sustainable development. What do you understand by when you say sustainable development? What do you understand by it? It means maximum utilization. This is the definition of your sustainable development. You can note it down. This is the definition of sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Maximum utilization or the optimal utilization of available resources, ensuring the availability of resources for future generations. That means we know what is economics. Economics is a behavioral science. Economics deals with, it tries to strike a balance between the available resources and the growth of a society or a nation. Why is it very important? Because we always know that resources which we have is less in number. There is a resource crunch. So we need to utilize this small amount of the meager quantity of resources that we are left with optimally, that is maximum utilization without wastage. That means we must aim towards zero wastage to ensure availability of these resources in the future generations or for the future upcoming generations. So what are the sustainable development goals? In order to achieve sustainable development, we need to achieve the sustainable development goals. The sustainable development was first met, the committee met at the Club of Rome in Italy, and it formulated 17 sustainable development goals for each and every nation signatory to it. So what are these 17 SDGs? No poverty. If there will be no one below the poverty line, no BPL families, no BPL, we will deal with BPL, FPL and all in our poverty section in our upcoming discussions, where we will be dealing with poverty. No poverty, no complete eradication of poverty from the world is your sustainable development goal number 1. Remember these goals because it will be helpful to you in your mains answer writing, as well as it will be helpful in getting some answers in your prelims as well. No poverty, zero hunger. First of all, poverty. Second one is eliminating hunger. Zero hunger is your second sustainable development goal. Good health and well-being. Amid the COVID pandemic, we all know, everyone got to know about the value of well-being, the value of human health. So being healthy is the third sustainable development goal. Quality education is your fourth sustainable development goal. Gender equality, no discrimination on grounds of gender. And remember, gender and sex are two different terms. Gender and sex are two different terms. Sex indicates your biological differences, which is about to happen. It is to happen. No one can stop it. But gender discrimination, that means it reflects your thoughts, your narrow-mindedness is being reflected when you treat gender inequality. So achieving complete gender equality is your fifth sustainable development goal. Clean water and sanitation access is your seventh one. Affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Reduced inequality. So what is this inequality talks about? We have talked about gender equality. This inequality talks about the inequality meted out to persons on the basis of caste, race, birth, religion. In India also we witness almost all these things, that is caste, religion. Sometimes the minorities have been targeted. Sometimes we harass humans on the basis of their caste, on the basis of race. Sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, that is your aquatic organisms, your marine organisms, your freshwater organisms, all comes under your aquatic organisms, life below water, and their life is in threatening because of increasing pollution, increasing dumping of solid waste into water bodies, into oceans, increasing dumping of chemical wastes from your factories, industries, etc. into the freshwater bodies, increasing the BOD and COD of the waters. You will read these terms in your environment classes, in your BOD and your COD, and making the home of these aquatic organisms highly polluted and not behaving in a good ethical sense. Life on land, that is your terrestrial animals, those who live on land, peace and justice, strong institutions. And the last and the 17th sustainable development goal is partnerships between the member nations in order to achieve the above mentioned 16 goals. So now we will deal with inclusive growth. Sustainable development, that's all you require in sustainable development in respect to your UPSC perspective. Something more, some extra added cheesy information is available. You might read it of your own, or you can join in our live classes to avail the full benefit of it. Now we will come to inclusive growth. So before we move deeply into it, let's understand what is inclusive growth. Inclusive growth is nothing but a concept that advances equitable opportunities for economic participants during economic growth, with benefits incurred by every section of the society, and primarily focuses on development in the equity of health, human capital, development of human capital, environmental quality, social protection and food security. So what do you understand by this definition? Inclusive growth. This means nobody is excluded. Sabka saath, Sabka Vikas. This is the term coined by our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. What is that? Nothing but inclusive growth. No one is excluded. Nobody is being excluded from the mainstream economic activities on the basis of any retrogressive discriminations. Everyone must be included, must be given equitable opportunities. A question might be arising now, like what is equal opportunities and what is equitable opportunities? Let me tell you, equal opportunities does not take into account the depth of the depth of poorness or the depth of deprivation that a particular person or a particular class of society is facing. It says fulfill this criteria and avail the benefit. But equitable distribution, equitable means it takes into consideration like those students who are those people who are mostly deprived of the mainstream benefits would be given a more of a push rather than those who are currently running the mainstream politics or the mainstream nation economic activities. So this is known as this is the difference between your equal and equitable. Suppose I will say, let's take your food mission into example. Suppose I will say rupees 100 per kg of rice, and whoever pays rupees 100, he or she will get 1 kg of rice. So how many of the people can fulfill their appetite? This is equal opportunity. This is equality. Like you pay 100 rupees, you will get 1 kg of rice. You need not pay more or less. This is equality. But equitable means suppose someone is earning 120 rupees and someone is earning 60 rupees. So the person who is earning 60 rupees, how can he or she buy this? So equitable will focus that if you are earning 120, then no doubt you will be able to pay 100. But those who are earning 60 rupees, for them this 1 kg of rice would be available for rupees 40. This is called equitable distribution. So the definition of inclusive growth implies, let's understand that, the direct link between macroscopic and microscopic approach of any economic growth of a country. It establishes a direct link between your macroscopic and microscopic approaches of any economic growth in a country. So question arises, what are macroscopic and microscopic approaches? Now let's look into it. Be patient. See what are the microeconomic approach. The microeconomic approach focuses on the structural transformation for economic diversification and competition. Remember these technical terms. Microeconomic approach, this is also a definition, you can put it up in the exam. The microeconomic approach focuses on the structural transformation for economic diversification and competition. It talks about changing the structure, transforming the economic structure in order to ensure economic diversification and make the market more competitive. Higher the competition, higher the benefits. More competition, more players into the market will introduce more competition in the market, thereby providing most benefits, but thereby being mostly beneficial to the consumers. Therefore, we need to appreciate, we need to encourage people to participate or to be a player in the economic market, to emerge as business hub. Therefore, through this, we can achieve more economic players in the market, ensuring more tightened competition and at the end our customers or the consumers or the citizens of the nation or the mango man will benefit from it. Now, what is the macroscopic approach? The macroscopic approach will give the aggregate value of gross national product or gross domestic product in terms of action of those products and also the income produced by an individual as a whole, firm, organization, etc. Macroscopic approach will give the aggregate, that is the summation of all the values of your gross national product. We have discussed about GNP, GDP, where some depreciation is taken off from GDP and all these things in our previous video. You can refer that video if you have any doubts regarding GNP or GDP. In terms of action of those products, and also the income produced by an individual as a whole, like your annual income. Annual income. Some are working at rupees 6 lakh per annum, some at rupees 10 lakh per annum, right? So these are your annual income, that is the income incurred by an individual as a whole. Sustainable economic growth. Sustainable economic growth. We discussed about it in a separate time. Now let's merge sustainable development with inclusive growth. Sustainable economic growth requires inclusive growth. Requires inclusive growth, which quite often is one of the problems in developing countries due to corruption. And the best example of this is India. India at present is a developing nation along with China. The two fast emerging developing nations are your China and India. Right? The two powerhouses of Asia, you can also say to them. That is China as well as India. And one of the major problems in these developing countries is the corruption, is heavy corruption. In India, we know up to what extent corruption has its roots in our society. Eliminating it from the society is very a Herculean task, I will rather say, that making India completely corruption free and honest. Therefore, to attain accountability and transparency, inclusive growth should be focused on equality of opportunity, increasing the income of poor and raising the standard of living. Remember this, equality of opportunity, no equitable distribution, equality of opportunity as well as increasing the income of poor. Then it will become as equitable, right? Inclusive growth should be focused on equality of opportunity, increasing the income of poor and might raise the standard of living. So with that, our inclusive growth finished. Now we will be discussing about inflation, the much talked about topic, inflation. Every time you will be seeing in the news that inflation has gone up, inflation has crossed its limits, inflation is down, like that. So what is inflation? Inflation is defined as a situation in which there is a sudden increase in the price of goods. It can also be seen as devaluation of worth of money, and the primary reason for this price rise can be classified under two heads: increase in demand and reduced supply. In mango terms, in completely layman terms, let me describe this definition to you. In 2016, let's say in 2016, 1 kg of apple was worth rupees 150 in the market. Coming to 2021, 1 kg of apple costs rupees 200 in market. So this price rise of rupees 50 is nothing but inflation. Another term was devaluation in the worth of money. How? Look, previously through 150 rupees only you were getting 1 kg of apple. Now to get this 1 kg of apple you need to spend rupees 200. That means your spending has got increased. This in turn shows that the value of currency has depreciated, has devalued. Your currency, your money has devalued. This is called what is known as inflation. Why it occurs? Due to increase in demand or reduced supply. Suppose we in India have 200 kg of apple in total and we have 4 to 5 persons. Imagine we have 4 to 5 persons. This is sufficient for them. Suppose we got some tourists and all. Now there are 200 people in the nation. Is 200 kg going to be sufficient? No. Demand increased. Quantity remained same. Therefore, price rise will be increased. Price will be increased. Reduced supply. For reduced supply, one of the best examples is COVID. The pandemic, the lockdown, where factories shut down their operations and supply crunch happened, leading to increase in inflation. Where supply is absent, then the goods will remain in shortage as compared to its demand, and when there will be a shortage in the supply, shortage in the amount of goods compared to demand, definitely there will be increase in the prices. So yes, let's take a look at this example. Let's suppose this is an example. Suppose 5 kg of rice costs 100 rupees. That means 1 kg costs 20 rupees. But after some time, 4 kg of rice is costing 100 rupees. That means 1 kg of rice will cost you 25 rupees. So previously 1 kg of rice was costing 20 rupees. Now 1 kg of rice costing 25 rupees. So price has increased. That means money devalued, it depreciated, money devalued. This shift or upward change in prices is called nothing but your inflation. Record inflation in India. In 1974, India had the highest amount of inflation witnessed after independence. Post-independence, this is the record of inflation in India. There are different indicators in India which measures the inflation rates like your wholesale price index and your consumer price index. In the last 50 years, we were calculating inflation on the basis of WPI, and the average inflation rate based on wholesale price index was 7 to 8%. But in 1974, this is the average. Remember, this 7 to 8%, is the average inflation rate. But in 1974, India observed the highest inflation rate of around 34.68%. 34.68%. Can you imagine that? Where it is almost, compared to 7%, it is almost 5 times of the regular inflation. So what are the reasons behind it? What are the reasons that induced more than almost around 5 times of inflation in the market? Why it happened? Reasons for 1974 cause of record inflation. Liberation of Bangladesh. Independence of Bangladesh, the erstwhile East Pakistan from the erstwhile West Pakistan or present day Pakistan. India had to go into war with Pakistan to liberate, to give Bangladesh its independence, and heavy losses incurred, supply was diverted towards the army, and hence supply crunch happened in the general market. Increased population. India was witnessing a boom in population in the 1970s. That was also leading to increase of demand. Liberation of Bangladesh, decreased supply. This is a supply induced, and this increase in population led to increase in demand. Both are responsible for rise in inflation. And this also less production in manufacturing sector, another supply crunch, another decrease in supply situation, and improper control of production and consumption. The government failed in controlling properly the supply chain with the available demand. It couldn't maintain the supply chain in par with the increasing demand, hence leading to the record rise in inflation during that period. Types of inflation. What are the types of inflation? There are broadly two types of cost-based inflation. One is your demand pull inflation, which we are talking for about 2 to 3 slides, and cost push inflation. Now let's take a look at the definition. Demand pull inflation. What is demand pull inflation? Demand pull inflation occurs when excessive demand for commodities increases their prices. As I had told you previously while giving the example of apples. Excessive demand, more than expected demand of commodities will definitely lead to shortfall of those commodities in the market, thereby leading to an increase of the prices. This is the conventional mode. Remember this. This is the conventional mode of inflationary situation where too much money is chasing too few goods. Too much money is chasing too few goods, then it will lead to demand pull inflation. This might come as one of your MCQs. Remember, too much money is chasing too few goods, then it will lead to your demand pull inflation. The main factors, the causes playing their role in demand pull inflation are government expenditures. Government incurs expenditures lead to demand pull inflation. Government provides subsidies. In the present day, government provides DBTs, direct benefit transfers to customers' bank accounts, to the people's bank accounts, thereby pushing the liquidity into the market. Increase in liquidity, increase in demand, increase in inflation, and increase in, yes, look, the immediate next cause is increase in liquidity of money and role of black money, as well as rapid population growth. For 100 people, if you require 200 kg of rice, then for 1 crore people, you will be requiring 2 crore kg of rice. That's simple. Therefore, rapid population growth will also give rise to demand pull inflation. And liquidity, we discussed it, and black money will not lead to liquidity and money supply only in the market, nothing else. Now we will look at the cost push inflation. When it occurs? It occurs when wages and other costs rise and producers are successful in passing on the higher cost to the consumers in the shape of higher prices. How? What is the meaning? Take for example. Laptops. Okay, laptops. Commonly, laptops are available from rupees 30,000 medium range to rupees 50,000 mostly. Varying quality, varying ranges, right? So let's consider rupees 50,000 the cost of a laptop at present date is rupees 50,000. Let's suppose. Now, if the people working in the factory of HP, Lenovo, Apple, consider any company, okay, start demanding more wages, and their wages, their unions go on a strike, and they secured higher wages for themselves. Now, your materials that we require, for example, they require fibers. Your laptops are coming in fibers, plastics, steels, or the chips, the electronic chips that are being assembled into your laptops. These prices go up. So the cost price, while it was being sold at 50,000, the cost price suppose was rupees 30,000. Now, after increasing the wages, after increasing the prices of the raw materials, the cost price incurred by the company rises to rupees 35,000. Now, what will the company do? It will simply increase the price of the laptop by 5,000 to rupees 55,000. This is nothing but your cost push. That means increase in the cost price of the product leading to increase in the selling price of the product. That is called as your cost push inflation. And the main factors that are involved include fluctuations in output and supply in agriculture as well as in industrial sectors. Hike in oil prices. Hike in oil prices will lead to increase in transportation. And increase taxes. If taxes will go up, then the corporates or the organizations will try to access the tax amount, the increased tax amount, mostly from the consumers only. So therefore it will lead to inflation. Moving on, we completed cost-based inflation, and in cost-based inflation we looked at two inflation rates, that is demand pull inflation, and the second one is cost push inflation. One is pulling, demand is pulling the inflation, cost is pushing the inflation. Now we will look the various rate-based inflations. What are the rate-based inflations? There are four types of rate-based inflations. What are they? One is your creeping inflation, another one is your stagflation, third one is your hyperinflation, and the fourth one is galloping inflation. Let's have a look at all these four types one by one. Right? So moving on to creeping inflation. To begin with, rate-based inflation, in case of your creeping inflation, there is a significant rise of prices approximately at a rate of 2 to 3%. When the rise in prices of commodities and goods occur at a rate of 2 to 3%, then that kind of inflation is termed as your creeping inflation. It can be also termed as slow inflation. The slow inflation is nothing but the other name of creeping inflation. What is stagflation? Stagflation is a peculiar situation in an economy observed when there is stagnation in the economy and inflation occurs. India in COVID times, India amid COVID in 2020 witnessed stagflation. That means no growth, stagnation of growth, growth stagnated or growth is going down. We are going for negative growth rate in 2020. Stagnation of growth rate and increase in prices, that means inflation occurs. Stagnation of growth, increase in prices, that means inflation occurs. That is the situation of stagflation. Here inflation rate remains constant when higher rates of inflation coexist with higher rate of unemployment. This situation is known as stagflation. Remember, higher rates of inflation coexist with higher rate of unemployment, then this situation is termed as your stagflation. Stagflation. There is a graph, Gini coefficient is also present, which we will be discussing in our live classes, where it talks about higher the unemployment, lower the inflation. Higher the employment, higher the inflation. And this can be understood. If more people are unemployed, then definitely there will be less liquidity in the market. If there is less liquidity in the market, then definitely there will be decreasing inflation. Because money is not available with the people, then they will not generate that much demand, and they will, if demand is absent from the economy, then definitely inflation will tutter down. Suppose in employment generation is at an optimum level, all the people are employed, then definitely inflation will go up. If majority of persons are employed, majority of that workforce is employed, then definitely liquidity in the market will increase, because employed workforce will derive their salaries, money will be given going into their pockets. As a result, liquidity in the market will increase, and whenever liquidity in the market will increase, then we will witness a rise in demand, and rising demand is nothing but increasing inflation because of demand pull effect. Demand pull inflation would be there, but in stagflation we will witness that unemployment rate is at all-time high, as well as inflation rate is also increasing. This is a typical situation of inflation. This is called as stagflation. Hyperinflation. In case of in case of hyperinflation, inflation reaches up to 100% per annum. Up to 100% per annum, or it can also be referred to as rapid inflation. Rapid inflation, its other name is rapid inflation, in which increase in prices or of commodities is so fast that money or currency loses its importance as a medium of exchange. Let's imagine today, and we witness this in Venezuela. Venezuela witnessed hyperinflation, where you take money, bag full of money to buy just a simple single milk packet. That is the case of hyperinflation. There is no importance, no value of money as well. Imagine buying one milk packet or one half liter of milk, half liter of milk for rupees 5,000 today, and tomorrow it will be costing to you 10,000. Is there any value of that currency available? No, that currency has completely lost its importance as a medium of exchange. Venezuela is witnessing that case. Hyperinflation. This is the case of hyperinflation. Imagine this in India, like you are taking 5,000 rupees with you to buy a half liter milk packet, and you know very well that tomorrow morning you have to collect 10,000 rupees in order to buy that same packet once again tomorrow. That is the case of hyperinflation. Now comes galloping inflation. It occurs when prices of goods and services increase at 2 or 3 digit rates per annum, like 1786%, witnessed by Zimbabwe. It is known as galloping inflation. This is also known as jumping inflation. Imagine a chocolate, Candyman chocolate, that is costing you 1 rupee. I don't know the exact value. Imagine that is costing you 1 rupee today will cost you 786 rupee tomorrow. 786 rupees tomorrow. Taking the previous example of hyperinflation into account, half liter milk packet that will cost you rupees 5,000 one day, and on the next day, on the very next day, it will be costing you rupees more than 35,000, more than 786%, more than 35,000. Imagine that, taking 35,000 or around 40,000 rupees with you to buy a single half liter milk packet, and you need to buy it. It is an essential commodity. That is the case of galloping inflation. That is the condition of people living in those economies. Now let's take a look at the causes, the various causes of inflation. Inflation is caused due to increase in demand for goods and services, increase in public expenditure. It will increase liquidity in the market. Increase in private expenditure, both will increase liquidity in the market, thereby increasing inflation. Increase in exports, reduction in taxation, rapid growth of these four will lead to higher liquidity in the market, leading to more inflation. Rapid growth of population will increase the demand in the market, leading to inflation. Black money will again increase the liquidity in the market. What is liquidity? Increase in money supply in the market is called as liquidity. To know more about this, you just need to subscribe to our courses, to our live classes on our website, the link of which has been provided below. Decrease in supply, this is a supply side. This is a supply side problem. Decrease in supply of goods and services, hoarding by consumers or traders. But nowadays it has been made legal. How it became legal? By amending the Essential Commodities Act. The ECA Act got amended, in protest of which we witnessed the farmers' protest, right? The three farm laws that are being talked about, that has been much a discussion about. One of the three acts is the amendment of the ECA Act, where no action would be taken against those traders for hoarding of the essential commodities. In line of it, the farmers are protesting, the farmers agitated against the government. Natural calamities will lead to a crunch in supply chain, leading to inflation. Industrial disputes or your trade wars will definitely give rise to inflation, like the world is witnessing inflation because of China and US trade war. Definitely this will lead to rise in inflation or increase in prices of goods and services. How the inflation are calculated? Two methods, as we have discussed earlier in the very beginning, that is the definition of inflation and only: consumer price index, wholesale price index. What is consumer price index? Consumer price index determines the behavior of prices of all such commodities used by consumers on a daily basis from the retail market. Is calculated through CPI. The base year for CPI is 2011-12. Currently, this is the base year on which CPI is calculated. There are three distinct series of CPI calculated on a monthly basis: your CPI for agricultural laborers, CPI for industrial workers, and your CPI for urban non-manual employees, UNME. These are the three platforms under which your CPI is calculated. So in CPI, the basket contains various types of commodities which a consumer consumes in a given month. So the various types of commodities contain various weightages in order to decide the percentage increase of inflation. So the descending order of the weightages of these commodities in CPI are as given below. Fuel, then food, it could be written like this as well: food greater than fuel, greater than beverages, greater than clothes, greater than electronics, greater than your vehicles. This is the weightage. This is the decreasing order of weightage. Your food roughly accounts for approximately 45% alone. So if there would be a steep rise in increase there would be a steep rise in increase or prices of food commodities, then it will be having a severe impact on consumer price index and inflation. Overall inflation of the nation. What are the advantages of using CPI? CPI deals with retail prices which affect everyone's pockets. It has its impacts in the circular economy. What is the circular economy? There are two kinds of circular economy. One is virtuous, another one is vicious. We will be discussing those in our life classes. What are virtuous economy, what is vicious economy. Let me discuss in brief about it. Employment increases. Suppose more industrialization, more industries came up, then it will lead to more employment. That is guaranteed. If industries are coming up, then they will require human workforce. Employment will increase, leading to more wages, leading to more demand, and more demand will again leading to more setup of industries to fulfill this increasing demand. More industries, more employment, more money supply, more demand, again leading to more industries. This is called your virtuous cycle. Similarly, less industries, less employment, more unemployment, decrease in liquidity in the market, decrease in demand, thereby further causing a decrease in number of industries, leading to vicious cycle of economy. We will be discussing those things in detail in our life classes. Wholesale price index. Every commodity before reaching the public first goes to a wholesaler who then distributes the goods to the various local shops. We know that very well. The prices which prevail in this wholesale market and an increase in these prices is calculated through your wholesale price index, that is your WPI. What are the advantages? Advantages of using WPI. It covers wide range of goods, calculated weekly. Remember, CPI is calculated monthly, whereas your wholesale price index, that is your WPI, it is calculated weekly, leading to faster decision making. Calculated on all India basis, giving a better insight of inflation condition prevailing across the nation. Because your CPI is calculated on 76 centers. 76 centers have been identified. The real prices or the retail prices of the goods and commodities available in these 76 centers is taken into account to calculate your consumer price index or your CPI. Now let's take a look in the differences between your consumer price index and your wholesale price index, WPI. Consumer price index has a smaller basket of commodities, but WPI, the wholesale price index, the basket has more goods compared to CPI. Consumer price index, retail market, measured at retail market, and WPI measured at wholesale market. Consumer price index includes services because services are generated and directly consumed. I am generating a service, I am providing education, and the students, you are directly consuming that service. Therefore, there is no concept of wholesale in this. Therefore, services are not included in WPI. CPI calculated on a monthly basis, whereas WPI is calculated on a weekly basis. CPI, as I have told you, is calculated at specific centers in India and then aggregated to an all India index, 76 centers. I have told you in the previous time, and it is calculated, whereas WPI is calculated on an all India basis. Post 2015, India is using CPI for inflation targeting, and currently WPI is not used for inflation targeting. But for the first 50 years, post independence we are using WPI. So what is inflation targeting? Let's talk in brief. In detail we will talk in our live classes because we are not having enough time to talk over here. Inflation targeting, your monetary policy committee, you might have heard about your monetary policy committee of RBI. Monetary policy committee on dialogue with government has decided that the inflation rate in India must be in between 4 2 to must be in 4% plus or minus 2%. That means the range would be 2 to 6%. This is inflation targeting of India. Inflation targeting means the inflation has been set at that the ideal growth rate of inflation would be 4%. It would be the job of RBI to maintain this inflation rate, but there would be a relaxation of 2% plus or minus 2%. That means it can be relaxed up to 2% in the downhand side and can be relaxed up to 6% of the upward side. So the inflation must remain at best in the range of 2 to 6%. So these are all related to your inflation, your sustainable development and your inclusive growth as mentioned in your UPSC syllabus. To enjoy and make the concept more and to gain a knowledge about these concepts in detail, in very detailed and depth analysis in analytical system, you can subscribe to our live classes and avail the benefit of analyzing these things and developing your critical analysis levels. So that's it. Let's over this class. I hope you enjoy this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like this video, share this video and subscribe to our channel Stud Genie.